and I chair this illustrious CAC. Seems like I've been doing this a while. But I think tonight's going to be a great meeting. I know we're getting a lot of interest in these two proposals. We did kind of clear off the other things on the agenda just to make sure that we had enough time to really give everyone a chance if there's questions or, you know, just to learn more about the two proposals for this evening. You guys are lucky if you haven't done this before. You haven't gotten to hear me read the required document about why we're having this meeting on Zoom. So if you have a glass of wine, now would be a good time to take a sip of it. This is a virtual meeting of the Places Hydraulic Community Advisory Committee. It's being held pursuant to the compliance of emergency ordinance number 2814, an emergency ordinance to ensure the continuity of government during the COVID-19 disaster and open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. So let me just tell you what I'm going to ask everybody to do now is I love the fact that almost everybody has their picture on the video on. I'm going to introduce, because we have to tell you who all the board members are. But I want everybody to wave when I call your name, you know, wave so everybody can see who you are. Diantha McKeel, our famous leader. There she is. Yolanda Speed, who's our vice chair. John Lewis. There he is. Michael Corrigan. Yeah. Me. Kimberly Swanson. There she is. She's also our Charlotte Humphreys Park expert. Rosemary Miller. Rosemary, we're going to talk about it in a second, wrote the most beautiful set of minutes we've seen in years. Justin Salazar. Oh, there.
Jacqueline.
Jacqueline. I cannot, can you tell I can't read? Jane Fogelman. Vito Chetta. Bill Love. This is fun. I don't think Victoria Tremalia is here. I didn't see her. John Neal. Michelle Busby. And Julian Bivens. Cool. Michaela,
Victoria just joined.
Oh, cool. Did she? Okay, so Michaela, do you want to quickly introduce the staff?
I'll handle the staff. So we have myself, Michaela Accardi. I'm the staff liaison for the CAC. We have Stacy Pethia, Tori Kanopoulos. We have Vivian Groschel. We have, sorry, everybody wave. Carolyn Schaefer. And I am trying to, I think that is all the staff. Did I miss anyone? Okay.
Okay, cool.
I don't see Tori yet. I'm sorry, but I'm looking for Tori.
I think it's because we have so many pages. You have to turn, we have so many participants. There's a arrow to your right and left.
Page. Oh.
Yeah, we have a lot of people on the next page. So.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. The people that are responsible for receiving public comment are the Places Hydraulic CAC, Albemarle County Community Development Department, and project applicants. Thank you to everyone that is participating online and over the phone. This will be quite fun. As I said, we've got a lot of time for Q&As. When we do Q&As, and I encourage you to ask, and you know, for further explanations, or if you have any questions, what we're going to do is you can either raise your hand and we'll do that way. And you can also wait in the chat room if you have. Does anybody have any questions on how to make that work? I think everybody's done so many Zooms that this is like second nature now, but.
Can I jump in, Cynthia?
Yeah.
So at the bottom of your screen, if you're a member of the public attending, there's a Q&A box and there's a chat box. We're asking people to use the Q&A box. That's what I'll be paying attention to for comments and questions. We just have many opportunities to weigh in, and that's the one that we'll use tonight if you're not raising your hand and speaking verbally. So we'll get to those, as many of those as we can. Thanks, Cynthia.
Yeah, I'm looking for what happened to the waving your hand.
So that's if you click on participants.
Oh, there it is. Okay,
Yes.
got it. Okay.
There's
If you are joining by phone, press *9. Is it *9 or #9?
*9, you're right.
I'm losing my vision here tonight. Raise your hand and you'll be placed in the queue to speak. So, I think we have a lot of opportunity to make this work. And before we get into it, I need to have everybody on the Places29 CAC board members to approve the minutes of our last meeting that Rosemary did such a fabulous job on. I think everybody probably noticed. Yes, Jane.
I was at the meeting except for the last 20 minutes because my internet went out. I guess it was just after Brad came on, but I'm not on the list.
Okay. Good ad. Anybody else have any ads, deletes, comments, concerns? I would love a motion to approve by voice vote the minutes of the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Approved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very, very much. Okay, all comments, I have to remind you, will be recorded and put into the public version of the minutes. So just so you know. And I think we are now ready for the Arbor Oaks. Did you want to provide a brief opening, Michaela?
Yes, I'll kick us off, and Tori's actually going to share her screen, and I will pass it to her. All right, thanks, Tori. So as many of you know, tonight's CAC meeting is 2 community meetings for 2 rezoning projects. The first is DMA 2020-10 Arbor Oaks and DMA 2020-11 Premier Circle. And since we have many folks that are members of the public or new CAC members, this is just a brief overview to talk about community meetings. So each community meeting has several purposes. The first is to share information about a proposed project, as well as the Albemarle County Development Review process. This is an opportunity for members of the public, neighbors, and CAC members to provide public input on a project, as well as ask questions. And I'll talk about how this fits in with the development review process on the next slide. So the details of this graphic aren't so important, but the purpose of this slide is really to show that community meetings are required for special use permits and zoning map amendments. So that's in the yellowish color on the left side of your screen, showing that it's really the beginning stage of the process. And there are many different moments where staff reviews projects for their consistency with state and local regulations. But projects that are rezonings and special use permits require Board of Supervisors approval before they move forward into the next stages of the development review process. So that's the function of these community meetings today. And next slide, Tori. I'll pass this to Tori actually at this point, but I did want to remind CAC members that there's no formal vote that's taken today on the community meetings. This is an opportunity to share comments or ask questions, but there's no obligation to speak during these community meetings. And we'll also have neighbors who received letters about this community meeting who might be attending, and will provide an opportunity for them to ask questions and provide comments as well. Tori, you can go ahead.
Great, thanks, Michaela. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tori Kenelopoulos. I'm a senior planner with Albemarle County. So to start off, I'll go over a little bit about zoning and land use, and then talk a little bit about the first community meeting project, which is for Arbor Oaks. So the county zoning ordinance regulates the allowed uses, building heights, setbacks, open space requirements, density, and other site planning regulations. The ordinance regulations are divided into different zoning districts. Some are mainly residential or commercial or industrial, while others are more mixed use. And it's important to note that zoning is law and is a local ordinance. The county also has guiding documents that establish long-term visions and goals. These documents include the comprehensive plan and the master plans that correspond to each development area. The master plans include future land use designations for each parcel, which indicate the intended use of that parcel. And the current zoning and future land use designation do not always match. The long-range documents are not ordinances and are meant to inform and guide future development in the county. When a use is not allowed by right or by special use permit on a property, a rezoning is needed to change the zoning district of that property. No site plans may be approved prior to rezoning review and approval. Rezonings are legislative review projects, which start with review comments from county staff and other agencies such as VDOT and the Service Authority. The next step is the community meeting, which is what we're here for this evening. Then the applicant can decide to resubmit to address review comments or continue straight to the Planning Commission public hearing. Staff writes a staff report that recommends approval or denial of the rezoning request. The Planning Commission considers the staff report, public comment, and the ordinance requirements and recommends approval or denial. The Board of Supervisors also holds a public hearing and has the final vote to approve or deny the request. The public can attend both of these public hearings and may provide comments prior to or during the meeting. The first project community meeting this evening is for ZMA 2020-10 Arbor Oaks Towns. The proposed development is located on Hydraulic Road and is to the southeast of Albemarle High School. It is approximately a quarter mile southwest of Charlotte Yancey Humphreys Park. The property is located between Old Oak Court and Arbor Crest Drive. It is currently undeveloped and it is across the street from Georgetown Green Road. This is an image from GIS showing the parcel selected, and development is only proposed on this parcel, which is just under 1 acre. The property is currently zoned R4 residential, which allows up to 4 units per acre. It is also in the entrance corridor overlay district, meaning that any site plans on the property would require Architectural Review Board review and approval. The Places29 master plan designates the property as urban density residential, which recommends residential uses between 6 and 34 units per acre. This is the application plan for the rezoning, which proposes to rezone to R15 residential to construct 14 townhouses. The applicant is also requesting a new private street off of Hydraulic Road to serve these lots. And the applicant is requesting a planting strip waiver, which requires Planning Commission approval. The applicant received a review comment letter on October 2nd. The application is tentatively scheduled for a Planning Commission public hearing for Tuesday, December 1st. However, that date may change. The board public hearing has not yet been scheduled, and I will turn it over in a moment to the applicant for their presentation. And I will also put my contact information in the chat. Please feel free to email or call me regarding this project, and I can place you on an email update list to continue to receive information about the project if you would like. All right, if Tim Miller or Keturah Roel would like to go ahead and give their applicant presentation.
I'll be happy to. I'm not adept at these meetings, so I'm trying to figure out how to share my screen.
Remember the good old days when we used to get together?
Yeah, I miss that. So let's see.
At the bottom of your toolbar, there should be a button that says share screen.
And just make sure everybody introduces themselves so we know who is who, if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
so I am Keturah Roel. I am the applicant. Tim Miller is.
I'm the civil engineer
Oh,
with Meridian Planning Group.
and I have no idea how to share this screen.
Can you send it to one of our folks and they can share it for you?
Screen.
Is that possible?
We can do that if that's easiest. Feel free to email to me or Tori.
Did it once before.
What we're doing is,
You all don't see any of this, right?
where exactly on Hydraulic Road is this?
So this is right across the street from the Georgetown Green entrance. And
I'm not aware of that. It's
the southern entrance to the high school.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right, hold on.
So between the dentist office and.
Yeah, dentist's office.
Okay.
And
the-
across the
Right.
street from the other parcel that we heard last month.
Right.
Right. So, my goodness. Play settings, okay, I don't know. So anyway, probably try and email this, but long and short of it is, let me get back to your all screen. Our plan is basically with across the entrance from the southern entrance to the high school, we're requesting a private road because it's literally an entrance to a parking lot serving the 14 townhomes. As Tori mentioned, it's urban density up to 32 units. We're just asking for 14, which we can comfortably fit in there on townhouse lots. There'll be a block of 7 and a block of 6, or I'm sorry, 8 and 6. We'll have 25% green space. We're maintaining as much as possible of the existing woods to the north that is there. And that put that into an open space area into the rear, trying to keep a buffer to that side. Immediately to our south is the apartment complex that's there, of multiple units. We will have some existing tree buffer along the north end side of the entrance. On the south side, due to the side distance requirements from VDOT, we will not be able to plant much of any trees, maybe slightly, a small row of trees, in order to provide for the site distance, keep the entrance safe. It is
No,
not.
I don't want to, I hate to interrupt you, but we really need to see the presentation and the design. I'm sorry. Can you
Not
just,
a problem.
Kayla,
So
please?
You want me to share it my screen, Katura?
That would be great.
Hold on. I'll do this.
It's just really hard to follow it when we're just hearing a description. I'm sorry.
Sure, I understand. Give me a second. I'll email it to Tori.
Thank you.
Tori also has a slide with the application plan in her presentation that
Yeah, you can
pull
show
up
that
in the
anytime.
interim. Tori, do you mind doing that? Oh, never mind.
This what you want, Katura?
Yeah,
Right,
that
now we're
helps.
seeing something. That's great.
This is my screen, Katura.
Okay,
This is Georgetown Green entrance over here.
go ahead, Tim.
The dental office, Georgetown Road intersection is just off to this side. Well, and this is the entrance to the high school over on this side. So this is the private road and parking area that we're proposing. The 14 townhouses. This area over here is open space, currently wooded with a 2-foot tall retaining wall along the sidewalk that would try to be maintained, that wooded area there, which also carries over onto the front of this adjoining parcel. So this area in here would be maintained as a wooded area. We have a little playground, open space area in the back here for the neighborhood.
Bill Love has a question.
Yes, I'm wondering if there's any problem there with that private road in terms of ingress and egress onto Hydraulic Road. I remember the project we talked about last week across the street, that office building, and there was concern about coming out of there and making a U-turn. I have come out of that dental road and made a left turn there. It's tricky. And I'm just wondering if the transportation people see a problem with that, if you're coming out making a left, or maybe it's not so bad if you're coming the other direction, you want to go in. But that is a concern.
So Tim and I met with Max Green from VDOT at the site. And because, Tim, you can point out the center lane that's there, that's in the middle of the road, that permits for either flow of traffic in and out across the street, which is also why we are aligned with that entrance. I understand with the new dental proposal, it's right there at that intersection, and it's a little bit near the Georgetown intersection, got a lot going on. So this is pretty straightforward, and given the light is, the distance away with Greenbrier and Georgetown, an opportunity for a break in traffic that permits traffic movement.
Are these purchase units or rentals?
Purchased at this point is the plan.
Do you have any affordable units?
Yes, there will be most of them, most all of them. It's an affordable neighborhood.
Did somebody mute their,
Yeah, that's not my children.
So has VDOT been consulted about the potential traffic with the Georgetown entrance? People crossing, trying to get in and out of Georgetown at the same time? And have you looked at, like, during rush hour, peak periods, school hours, et cetera, how that may impact traffic?
Tim, you want to address that? But other than the fact that it's 14 units, it's not like it's 1,500 units in there
Yeah.
to access the driveway. So it's a modest amount of traffic being generated. And again, like I said before, we're less than half of the density that's permitted in the
Yeah,
comprehensive plan.
understood.
so why don't we let him go ahead and finish the presentation, then we'll get back to questions. So go ahead, hon.
So, Tim, why don't you address, you've got your plan there and you can move your mouse, but you can show the parking, our units. You've already talked about the buffers.
We're proposing pervious pavers over here for stormwater quality. An underground detention pipe here for volume control. Some of the comments that the county has would be some landscaping buffers along Rio Road here, or Hydraulic Road.
So the dark line on the bottom left is a existing retaining wall. There's a power line that goes through there. Oh, that's great, Tim. And then there are substantial trees in that location that we will maintain that are between the power poles and the retaining wall. County actually asked us to widen that sidewalk by a foot, which would necessitate removing the existing retaining wall and taking down all the large oaks that are along the front, oaks and pines that are along the front. So we were requesting that sidewalk continue to exist as it is, maintaining the retaining wall so we can maintain the mature landscaping that's currently on site in that location. All our utilities will be underground serving the development.
What public services do you intend to extend? These would be all hooked up to public water, sewer, potentially natural gas?
Potentially natural gas, yes, and certainly public water and sewer, so it will be fully equipped.
And how many floors would the townhomes be?
2, maybe 2.5.
Are you done with your presentation?
Yeah, Corey, do you have it?
We did get VDOT's comments, and it was requesting a trip generation data, a turn lane analysis, and a 4-foot buffer on the sidewalk. They didn't indicate any comments about entering and exiting the property with this entrance location.
And why is this a private road instead of,
Public road?
yeah,
A road. It's literally an entrance into a parking lot.
They don't want parking along public roads, perpendicular parking on public roads.
And
So
it's not connecting to anything. It's
it
minimal area.
doesn't have another road to connect to. Um,
It's a typical entrance, just like the apartment complex to both sides of this property. They're both private roads maintained by the HOA.
and it is your intent to allow left turns out of the space?
Yeah. Given VDOT's approval for that, given the number of trips per day being generated, is below any requirements to put a median in there. It would cause more hassle to make somebody have to go up and loop around or go around the block versus wait for a break in the lights, because the lights are just a football field away in each direction. So that has a tendency, we've been there many times standing on the site and watched the break in traffic. Now, granted, when school is, from 8 to 9, buses are coming, might be a little more challenging due to the traffic, but the lights still break the traffic flow every time.
And it meets the separation distance between adjacent entrances per VDOT regulations.
Do we have any neighbors here tonight? No. Anybody else? Well, speak now.
Sure, there is a question in the Q&A.
Matt, may I ask a question here?
Sure. There's a question in the Q&A.
I can read that aloud too after, or whenever is appropriate.
Go ahead, Vito.
Not that I'm asking for a revision here, but the sidewalk on Hydraulic Road is right on the curb.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting they move it, but the new regulations in the county require you have a green space between the curb and the sidewalk, which it makes all the difference in the world. This sidewalk is so incredibly uncomfortable. Also along Georgetown Road, it's right on the curb. You have cars flying by. And it's very uncomfortable. And in the future, it's really best that you move that back and have street trees along the road and the sidewalks 6 feet off the curb. And this looks like, well, these are not very expensive homes, I would think, whether they're for sale or for rental.
In the 300, yeah, low 3s to upper 2s.
Did you have to contribute at all to the school system?
We have not gotten that far, Vito.
Okay.
Secondly, again, the sidewalk, both north and south, is the existing sidewalk.
Right.
So, if we jump in, shove our sidewalk back, it creates an unusual thing. All the other properties are developed, and again, in front of the dentist office, they have the very high retaining wall and planting hillside.
Yeah.
It really, for the 100 and 200 feet, I don't know
Right.
what great safety that would be. And as I say, Tim showed where the heavy trees are, go to a green picture, you can see the heavy oak trees that are along that frontage. Corey might be able to pull that up.
I think I would agree. You really doesn't make any sense to change it.
We do more harm than good, actually.
I also think that this is an affordable product, which is very much needed.
Yeah, that's
in
been our
part of
goal.
town.
Right.
Do we have a question in the Q&A box that's related to some of this? Nancy Carpenter submitted a couple questions. When you say affordable, what is the AMI targeted or area median income? And Stacy Pethia with Albemarle County responded that households with incomes no greater than 80% of area median income qualify for sale affordable units. I'm going to pass this to Tori as well, because I think she has the response here.
Sure. So the county's definition, like Michaela said, is for households earning 80% or less of AMI. So the county would only count units as affordable if they were meeting that requirement. And I believe the for sale price, Stacy can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the for sale price for affordable units is 243,000.
Okay. So we would certainly have a proportion of those, maybe 20% even. I'm not sure what group in that price range. We do intend to make a good affordable contribution given the neighborhood and location. That's what's needed there.
Yep.
The land was fairly expensive and the development costs are climbing and more impacts and so forth. Just add that to that number.
Do we have any more questions or comments?
Mr. Bevins, you had a question?
Julian?
No, Chair, I was simply calling to your attention that there was something in the Q&A area.
Other than that, Tim and I worked pretty extensively on this layout, tried to come up with something that would preserve as much of the property and be effective use of the land, given that it's an infill development, and what we could create in a space that would be both livable and accessible and affordable. I don't know if my PowerPoint ever made it to Tori.
I
At this point, it's probably moot.
Did you, I think Tori, he's asking if you got his PowerPoint.
I did. I do need Tim to stop sharing his screen though, in order for me to share.
But if Tim has it, maybe he could just, do you have the other charts that he's talking about, Tim?
Tim doesn't know.
Oh,
Basically, it's just the footprint, the overview, and then a front picture of some townhomes, but it's not important.
Kim, did you have another question?
I was just curious. I mean, is this parcel in the opportunity zone?
Not that I'm aware of.
I think it probably is.
It is in the opportunity zone as far as I know. Julian, I think that's correct.
Huh?
Anybody else?
I think it's a good little project.
Try to keep it clean and simple and not make it complicated. There you go.
Oh, there it is. Oh, wow.
Thought that would be attractive sitting along the entrances on both sides. Something simple but creative.
Yeah,
Very nice.
very nice.
If A or B will let me. Not very Jeffersonian.
Very nice buildings.
Yeah, yeah. So, and it'll sit right to the street with pull-up parking and, green backyards, and the open space is 25% of the land. So.
That's great. Can you put the next chart up?
Yeah, that's great. Tori can see how much of that green is on the north
Yeah,
side.
on the back end.
Why
Yeah.
we designate that as open space. Right.
Hmm.
Okay. Then the next two are just simply the layout,
Yeah, cool.
which we've been looking at. So, all right, thank you all very much. Unless there's some other questions.
Thank you, Katura.
Yeah, thank you very much for
Thank you.
sharing this with us. I think
Okay.
it's encouraging, especially if you can
I
make.
think it'll be a pretty addition to the area and both be a little more upscale, but be affordable. That's our goal for this area.
Cool.
Appreciate your time and listening and.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Tori.
Okay, so I think Tori, you're still on as we go to Premier Circle, which I went and visited yesterday.
That's right. So can everyone see my screen again okay?
Yes.
Great. So this is the second rezoning community meeting this evening. This is for ZMA 2020-11 Premier Circle. The proposed development is located at 405 Premier Circle. It is on the west side of Route 29 between Stonefield and Fashion Square Mall, and the site is currently the Red Carpet Inn. This zoomed in map shows the site location just north of Westfield Road, and it's adjacent to another hotel and several office spaces. This map shows the parcel highlighted from GIS, and the proposed development is entirely on this 3.75 acre parcel. The property is currently zoned C1 commercial, which allows for a variety of commercial, retail, and office uses. It is also in the entrance corridor overlay district, meaning that any site plans on the property would require Architectural Review Board review and approval. The Places29 master plan designates the property as office, flex, research and development, and light industrial. This designation calls for development with these employment generating uses. It also calls for residential uses as secondary with no specified density range. This is a page from the application plan for the rezoning, which proposes to rezone to neighborhood model district for mixed use development. No new streets are proposed. Since this is a neighborhood model zoning district rezoning, this is both an application plan and a code of development. The code is specific to the property and has regulations for permitted uses, setbacks, open space, and housing. Up to 140 dwelling units are proposed. The code requires at least 60% of units on this site to be affordable. The proposal also includes supportive services for residents. The applicant is also proposing offices along Route 29, and the code allows for a variety of commercial, retail, and office uses on the site. The applicant will receive review comments on November 6th. The application is tentatively scheduled for a Planning Commission public hearing for Tuesday, December 8th. The board public hearing will likely be in February of next year, and I will briefly turn it over to the applicant for their presentation. And I'm also going to include my contact information and Megan Nadostup's contact information, since we will both be working on the review of this project. Please feel free to email or call either of us regarding this project, and we can place you on an email update list to continue to receive information about the project. Thank you. Now I will turn it over to Lori Schweller for the applicant's presentation.
Thanks, Tori. Hi, everyone. I'm Lori Schweller, attorney with Williams Mullen, and I will share my screen with you now. Let's see if I can. Is everyone seeing my slides?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay, great. So as Tori explained, we are requesting a rezoning to neighborhood model development in order to redevelop the Red Carpet Inn for affordable and supportive housing. The project has three proponents: the Virginia Supportive Housing, VSH, which provides permanent affordable rental housing with on-site support services. You may be familiar with the Crossings in Charlottesville. That's a VSH project. Piedmont Housing Alliance, which, as you know, manages communities in Central Virginia and provides financing and develops affordable housing and provides home buying counseling. And Thomas Jefferson Area Coalition for the Homeless, TJAC, which is a coalition of individuals and organizations working to end homelessness in our area.
You know, I don't think you have your presentation on slideshow,
Oh, thanks.
because we have your next slide is taking up half the screen.
Okay.
Or on the notes, we see like the notes screen.
Yeah,
so
the
if you're
notes
able to
screen.
switch the screen that you're sharing.
All right.
Yeah.
How's that?
There, that was it. Yep.
Great. Okay. So our project development team includes Whitney McDermott and Bruce Wardell, who are with us tonight, with BRW Architects. Craig Katarski with Timmons is with us tonight. And of course, representatives VSH, PHA, and TJAC are here. Just to remind you, that's Julie Anderson with VSH, Andy Miller with PHA, and Anthony Harrow of TJAC. So we're all here to answer your questions. Here's the location once again. It's at 405 Premier Circle. Can you see my cursor moving?
Yes.
Okay, this is Premier Circle. This is 29, and you might be familiar with the, it's a full intersection here at the Waffle House. You can actually turn in there, and it's a right out only here, right next to the property. So this is a private road called Premier Circle. Currently, there are 4 buildings that comprise Red Carpet Inn, and there are 115 hotel rooms on site right now. This building here is along Route 29. There's a berm here, so you probably haven't noticed it unless you've driven up in the site, but there's a parking lot in front. You can't see these cars from 29, and then the building, you don't see the lower half of it, just for reference. Again, this is the tax map parcel here, 29 along here. These are all commercial properties. These are all commercial properties with Westfield Road frontage, and then these are single family homes to the northeast. As Tori explained, the Places 29 master plan, future land use south map indicates that this property should be redeveloped as office, R&D, flex, light industrial, and that as a primary use. Secondary use is residential. And since the goals of this project are residential with non-residential as secondary, we think neighborhood model development is the right district to rezone to for this project. So the goals are, VSH wants to provide 80 studio units of permanent supportive housing at 50% or lower AMI. PHA will provide a building with 40 to 60 1- and 2-bedroom units of affordable housing at 30 to 80% AMI. As we'll talk about a little bit later, that's a wider range just to give some latitude in case LIHTC funding doesn't come into play. And TJAC will provide rooms, will use the existing hotel rooms for use as emergency shelter for clients experiencing homelessness at high risk of developing serious illness from COVID-19. So during development, existing hotel rooms can be used. As Tori mentioned, the district for office, R&D, flex, light industrial, there's no density designation. So we're using urban density residential and urban mixed use as our reference point. Those have 34 dwelling units per acre, and we're requesting 37 dwelling units per acre for the most efficient use of this property, which would permit 140 units. The project would be developed with 2 blocks. Block 1 is here on Seminole Trail. It would be either non-residential or mixed use. This is 1.07 acres. And block 2 is the residential portion, which would contain both the VSH and the PHA buildings. Here you can see where those buildings are located. So right in the center would be the VSH building, which would be a 4-story building for supportive housing. Behind that would be the PHA building, which would be 4 stories closer to the center of the project and 3 stories closer to the rear. And then the last to be developed would be the commercial or mixed use building along Route 29. And that would be minimum 5,000 square feet, maximum 20,000 square feet. The affordable housing plan is that VSH would provide 80 studio units. So that would be 100% affordable to those making 50% or less of area median income. The PHA units, there would be either about 40 in this building and 20 within the mixed use building, or all 60 could be in this building. And you can see the breakup here of 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, possibly up to 5% 3 bedroom. And again, that would be 30 to 80%, depending on what kind of funding is available. The project is proposed to be done in phases, and the reason for that is because it will include low-income housing tax credits. So phase 1 would be, as you can see in the center here, the VSH building. That would be constructed first following its receipt of its LIHTC credits. And then the existing buildings could continue to be used to shelter homeless by TJAC. Phase 2 would be the development of the PHA building, and there may be some use of the existing hotel rooms as well. But at this time, this portion, block 1, would be prepared possibly for sale to a third party. And then phase 3, all of the amenity spaces would be completely built out, and the mixed use or non-residential building in block 1 would be complete. Amenity and green space is shown on this slide. The project would have 20% green space, and within that, 10% of the space would be for amenities. And you can see that there is a setback of 50 feet from the building. That's the existing setback now, but we would add a landscaping buffer here of evergreen and deciduous plantings. There would be some plantings along Premier Circle, and then of course plantings along the entrance corridor. We are requesting a recreational facilities waiver because the majority of the residents at the site would probably be older residents, and we think that a substitution would serve those residents better than the tot lots or basketball court called for by the zoning ordinance. So what we're proposing instead is 2 community garden spaces, 1 for each residential multifamily building, and 1 interior fitness room within each residential multifamily building. And this is just giving you a sense of how those buildings lay out on the property. Again, VSH in the center, PHA over here to the northeast, and then the commercial or mixed use building again along Route 29. So this is a timeline for the phasing. So we'd start hopefully applying for the March 2021 LIHTC credits, and construction could begin in 2023-24 for the VSH building. So VSH plans to place its building in service by the end of 2024. PHA would be on an 18-month delay from that, so it would have a March 2023 LIHTC application deadline, construction over 2024-25, and then placement in service by the end of 2025. And of course, TJAC would be able to use existing hotel rooms immediately and continue to use those hotel rooms through phase 1 and possibly part of phase 2. Parking needs are shown here. We are requesting a waiver because we have found, based on actual data from the many Virginia supportive housing projects, that it uses far fewer spaces than is normally required for a multifamily building. So as you can see on this chart, 0.35 is the largest number of spaces that's used by any of these properties that BSH has in service right now. So that's 0.35 space per unit, which would require only 28 spaces. BSH went a little bit farther and did some recent counts of maximum actual spaces used at some of its very close communities, and you could see they're even smaller, the largest one being at the crossings for only 0.27 space per unit. Similarly, PHA will need fewer spaces than would be required for a regular multifamily development. We're estimating based on the ITE parking generation manual for affordable housing units, 1.3 spaces per unit, as opposed to the numbers on the left, which are for standard multifamily. So we're requesting a reduction in parking for the PHA building to 78 spaces. We're not requesting a reduction for parking on block 1 for the multi-use building. Excuse me. We expect the trip generation to be far lower than what could be done by right. As Craig can speak to, Timmons did an evaluation of a potential supermarket at this very site, and this proposed redevelopment would have far less traffic than that would. You can see at the PM peak hours, it would have about a third as many trips as by right development. So that's our presentation. We're happy to take any questions that you might have.
I have several questions.
Yeah, Bill Love has a question. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, so the other information I have on this is just what I read in the paper the other day. So one of my questions is, will this be targeted toward homeless people? It sounds like they're going to use the existing buildings while they're there for sort of emergency support. And I assume those would be mostly for homeless, but will any of the apartments be specifically set aside for homeless? That's what I'm wondering. If so, would there be priority given to people who are there temporarily in the existing buildings when it comes to the new buildings?
So we have Julie here for VSH and Andy here for PHA, and they probably would like to answer separately for their individual projects. So Julie, do you want to go first if you can unmute yourself?
So the VSH property, the permanent supportive housing, would be targeted to low-income individuals and individuals experiencing homelessness. And we would invite anybody that is using those hotel rooms to move in once the building is completed and we're leasing up.
And what additional services are going to be provided to those people who are homeless? I'm assuming you will have somebody on site to coordinate services for those folks. And I just wonder what kind of services there might be. I'm also wondering about people who don't have cars, how they would, I don't think any bus lines run up around that way. So what would they be expected to do? Let's say to go to jobs and that sort of thing.
Sure. So yes, permanent supportive housing means it is permanent. Residents sign leases. It's their apartment. They can stay as long as they want to. And then the supportive aspect is that there are caseworkers in the building. So we have a front desk staff who's there 16 hours a day, two staff actually. We have a night monitor who lives in the building and can assist with any needs at night. And then the case managers, as well as property management, are on site in the building during normal working hours. And the case manager does provide that assistance to the individuals to help connect them with any services they need in the community, any benefits they're entitled to, that sort of thing. And then as far as transportation, there is a bus line on, I believe it's on Westfield behind the property.
I can show that real quick.
Lori, do you mind if I read a related question so that you could probably address it all at one time? We got a question in the Q&A box about transportation. Kenneth Martin said, what transportation amenities are being proffered since there is no transit service provided within a mile and the highway speeds are not pedestrian, quote, friend? If you know a more narrow road with fewer than 8 lanes, Rio Road has been the location of several pedestrian deaths recently. Many of the proposed residents will need transportation to work, grocery shopping, medical appointments, etc., and cannot afford cabs, Uber, Lyft, or even Jaunt on a regular basis. So if you could incorporate that into your response, that'd be great.
Sure, there's the CAT bus line, route number 5, runs right behind the project. It's at the intersection of Westfield and Commonwealth. And so it's less than a quarter mile from the project. And so that runs all the way from Barracks Road Shopping Center. It makes stops up Georgetown Road, shops at Stonefield, Fashion Square Mall, Albemarle Square Shopping Center, Rio Hill Shopping Center, and keeps going up towards beyond Carsbrook. I don't see the button to allow me to show you that, but so, and I have been in touch with Kat about future services, and have had some communication with Kevin McDermott, and it's something we can talk about even more. It's true there's no bus that runs through Premier Circle, but it does run behind the project along Commonwealth Drive, just to be clear. Andy, did you want to talk about your program and integrating residents into your community?
Sure. So the Piedmont Housing Alliance portion of scope, so we are looking at 40 to 60 units. And ideally, we would be able to structure that deal so that we'd have a proportion of our units that would be targeted towards very low income individuals. And so in that scenario, we would be able to address some of the individuals who are experiencing homelessness. And you know, we'd be able to share some of those services with VSH. For us, it's a little less clear as to how many units we're going to be able to target that way, just because it's dependent upon the level of subsidy that we reach in our projects and our funding. And so we won't know that until later when we're actually working through our LIHTC application. So, but that is the intent of our project, is that a portion of our units would be able to target that population as well. I do believe that we were on site the other day, and it was mentioned that there were intersection improvement branchlands that were going on to create a pedestrian walk, to improve the pedestrian access across Seminole Trail. And there is actually a bus line. There's a bus stop over there as well, near the food line.
Cam, I see your hands up. If you have a question, feel free.
Yeah, so I had a neighbor who's been here longer than I have tell me that Premier Circle is a private road. I don't know if anybody can speak to that. But since I've been here, the other item that's surfaced was at one point on transportation planning maps, there had been a proposal to put this parallel road that would have gone up through Premier Circle and then connected somewhere over onto going through Westfield and then through onto Greenbrier. Is that essentially then off the table? And can somebody speak to what the deal is with Premier Circle as a private or a public road?
Kim, I can say that Premier Circle is definitely a private road. It when the parcels along there were subdivided in 1980, there are only a small number of parcels along Premier Circle. In 1984, there was a declaration and deed of easement recorded that granted an easement to everybody along that private road to use Premier Circle. And it's 50 feet wide, the easement is, but the road itself is only, I believe, half of that. Craig can correct me if I'm wrong. So we will be working with the other owners along the road to make sure that we are using our easement appropriately.
And will that include then looking at fire protection for the area? Since it's a private road, how will you extend fire coverage?
Craig, do you want to address that?
Sure, I can jump in. As far as fire coverage is concerned, we just work with the fire department during, well, the fire department would review a rezoning application as well as site plan review. And it's really about access there. So if private road, public road, parking lot, so long as they can get their truck where they would need it to be and meet all the standards and regulations that they have. Which we don't see any issues based on our experience that this application would present. That would be sufficient for the fire department.
But is there a hydrant there currently?
So there's water service over in that area, and so we could extend a hydrant off of the water service that's there.
So it might be helpful, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but might be helpful for staff to explain the difference between public and private and what it means when you're private as opposed to what it means when you have a public road. In other words, bringing it up to VDOT standards and snow removal and who's responsible if the road is private and who's responsible if it's public. I think that might be helpful for both of these discussions.
I can go ahead and at least answer part of that question. So in the county, both public streets and private streets at this point have pretty similar design requirements and standards. Of course, if there's a private street that's been around for a long time, it might not be up to today's current standards. But a new street, they'd have similar requirements for surface, for paving, but private streets have different requirements. They can have much smaller widths. They can have different parking allowed. There's some waivers for curb and gutter and things like that. But a public street would be maintained by VDOT, and a private street would be maintained by a private entity or a group. Oftentimes it's a homeowners association, and everyone in the association pays a fee to contribute to maintaining the streets. As Lori said, this one seems to be a bit of an older street, so there'd be probably the different businesses contributing to the maintenance of it. Some private streets might also have a public access easement over them to still allow the public to access. Lori, I don't know if I missed anything, or Craig, for this particular street.
There is an association that was created by the declaration that I mentioned. We will work with them on whatever we need to do to ensure maintenance and so on as we work through the site planning process.
So the money that supports the association or the repairs and maintenance of the road and snow removal and all of that, that association is funded by the homeowners or the renters or whomever, right? Probably not, I mean, the renters through the whoever owns the complex.
That's true. That's true. Theoretically, it would be funded by all of the owners or occupants through the owners who use that road. We're working out and learning more details about it to find out how that is being done currently. And so we'll make sure that we have all those agreements in place with the other parties who use the road.
Which would be in the last phase. So the users and the commercial piece is in the last phase, just for clarity.
Well, actually, I
just wanted to be clear. I'm not sure about.
Yeah, those of us who are the proponents of this project all have an interest in making sure that there are provisions for road maintenance because we'll be using Premier Circle no matter whether we're commercial or residential. And so that does apply to the project as a whole. So I should say, currently, sorry to interrupt you, currently the land is owned by a company, Tiata Limited. And so the information that we're gathering is from the current landowner, just to be clear.
I was just kind of curious. I mean, who will actually own the property when it's developed underneath these different organizations? I mean, like the Royal Indian Hotel, you know, they'll own that, but then are we subdividing the property, and or is there a conglomerate that you guys are putting together?
At the time it was subdivided, I don't have title work actually, Cynthia, but I can just say that at the time it was subdivided, it was done for Mary Patricia Brown, and Mary Patricia Marinos Brown, she is the one who created the easement and granted the easement to the other 6 lots that use Premier Circle. So there's a total of 7 lots in that subdivision.
Wow. Huh. We also have a question or some comments from Nancy Hunt. Wait, hold on 1 minute. One of the comments was, I would like to stress the importance of meeting or exceeding the entrance requirements for landscaping along Seminole Trail. And then the second question was, if you are expecting older residents without cars, have you made any accommodations for jaunt transportation? So landscaping and jaunt.
Okay. I think maybe Whitney, would you like to take the landscaping question?
Sure thing. Hi, I'm Whitney. I'm from BRW Architects. As far as landscaping along Route 29 in the entrance corridor, we are proposing to meet all standards and regulations of the entrance corridor.
Cool. I'm not sure where Nancy is. Well, if that answers your question, but what about the jaunt?
That's something we'll have to look into. It is something we have discussed, and it is something we want to look into, certainly. I don't have any information to provide tonight, though.
Okay, Vito, did you have a question?
Yeah. My experience has been with homeless folks is that, first of all, thank you all for doing a wonderful, very much needed project. This is terrific. I know it's not easy. My experience with folks like this is that a big percentage of them are mentally ill. Is that actually true with these folks? And do many of them or any of them work? Do they have jobs? And how do you treat, if they are mentally ill, how are they treated?
I'll take a stab at that. I'm Anthony Hoare. I'm the director for Thomas Jefferson Area Coalition for the Homeless. And the project with VSH is targeting a portion of the homeless population, which we refer to as chronic homelessness, which includes folks who have been on the streets for years and have disabling conditions. And with that population of folks who have been on the streets for years, mental illness is quite common among that population. However, that's a relatively small portion of the number of people that might fall into homelessness over time in a community. But the needs are quite high, and so that's why this project is dedicated to that. And so that's why the supportive services component is key to a project like this, because it's really essential to helping someone feel like this is their new home and getting the support and the needs that they need, and connections to other community resources like Region 10 or employment services if that's something they're interested in. Many of these folks, because they do have disabling conditions, do receive SSI or SSDI and therefore don't work. But if they can, or if they're interested in working a portion of the time, that's absolutely a part of the case management services, is trying to connect someone to those types of resources in the community and connect to meaningful employment, that type of thing.
Thank you.
I think, having worked in folks in public housing as well as the Old Age Services Organization, where some of these original grants came from for the housing. I mean, in my experience, the issues that people have can't ever be addressed if they don't have a roof over their head.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you have food and shelter, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, you got to fix those first. And then after that, I mean, I've seen people kind of grow and blossom as, you know, they get to the point where, you know, they have food and shelter, then they can, you know, focus on sobriety, they can focus on, you know, getting a job and stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm very encouraged by this.
Great.
Yeah, thank you, Cindy. That's true. I'll just mention that I don't have any specific numbers off the top of my head unless Julie does, but the research shows that that's true. Supportive services are far more effective when someone has the stability of their own home, you know, and so we see that in the work that we do.
And I see Bill Love has his hand raised.
Yes, I just want to add, also echo the comments. I think it sounds like a really worthwhile project. Anytime you can add that many affordable units to a community at one time is great. And particularly if you can offer permanent housing to homeless people. I'm very familiar with the program in New Orleans because one of my best friends is head of the program there. And that program has done wonders in cutting down the rate of homelessness in that city. And she's taken me on a tour of a couple of the buildings. I've been in the apartments of a couple of the folks, and just to see the pride that they have in their new apartment is amazing. And they have the folks on site who can provide assistance in multiple ways that we've already discussed. So I hope this goes forward.
Tori?
Yes.
Say Tori? Oh, no, Lori.
Tori.
I think it's a great project. I think the elephant in the corner is that Food Lion is across the street and it's not easy to get to a bus. And I think, yeah, I hate to see more fatalities on 29. I think it really needs to be addressed that how are you going to cross 29 or make it safer to get across 29? How is it safe to go to the Food Lion? Everyone's got apartments and they need food. I'm all in. I think it's a great project, but I think safety has got to be, in addition to having a roof over our heads, they have to be able to get in and out of there safely. My 2 cents.
No, I was wondering if there was, you know, could be an actual pedestrian crossing there, you know, with the light and, you know, because I think it will be tricky. Did I
And again,
see-
Lori, that is part of the plan, right? If I'm not mistaken. Not this development plan, but it was already planned previously, if I'm not mistaken.
I think there's at the Greenbrier connection, which is very close to that, there's a pedestrian button. I could be wrong, but that isn't one of the areas that is made more pedestrian friendly. I had the same question about access to food, because if you cross 29, then you have access to the Food Line. That's the closest. But other than that, it's the 7-Eleven across Greenbrier, which is challenging as well. Anyhow, great project, supportive.
Yeah. Does anybody else?
Could I clarify? I'm coordinating with one of our transportation planners, and there are no pedestrian crossings of 29 in that area that are planned, and we can follow up via email to this group since I don't have the information in front of me, but I can provide more of that. Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, no, I mean, I cross Greenbrier by bike, and it's where there's bike lanes. So it's one of the connection points as a bicyclist. So I think it makes sense if there were to be some sort of pedestrian crossing similar to what we have further down south on the other side of the hydraulic crossing. That would be a logical place at Greenbrier.
Actually, Jenny, who just joined, is running late, is also asking about pedestrian crosswalks and bus stops and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I think not surprisingly, being on 29, you know, that's, you know, this thing on top of everybody's mind is, oh my God, how do you cross there? So. Did you put that up, Tori, or or
I-
Lois, or?
I was trying to put up the Route 5. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I didn't mean to interrupt your comments, Cynthia.
That's all right. Go ahead.
I just wanted you to be able to see. So the arrow is pointing to where the site is. I just wanted you to be able to see the closest bus stop on this side, on the project side of 29, is where the little brown arrow is pointing near Westfield Road. So intersection with Westfield and Commonwealth Drive. So you'd have to walk up Westfield to Commonwealth. So it's behind the project. So so that's the Route 5 we were talking about. But as everyone mentioned, if you cross 29, you can get to the one in front of Food Lion, and that's a different route. And so that's the one that we had the question about safety. I just wanted to make sure you got a chance to see this one.
Okay.
Has there been any talk with the neighbors to allow a shortcut from that location directly to Westfield, or at least shortcut across maybe some of the commercial properties to get onto, I think it's Westfield or Greenbrier or whatever that is, Greenbrier, just to make the walk shorter to the bus stop on Commonwealth? Has that been any consideration?
We haven't had those discussions so far, to my knowledge. But we can, thanks for the comment. We can certainly look at that.
There is also another question about, there is a green barrier that has not been maintained between the residents of Commonwealth Circle and properties of Premier Circle. Will this be addressed?
But behind the project, between the businesses and the residents of Commonwealth Circle. Okay, I think I understand. Let me see, I can share again. I don't see the button, but just to explain, there are large mature trees along the boundary behind the project and along to the southwest along the project between it and the commercial buildings. Most of those trees are on the other properties. They're not actually on the project property, so they would not be disturbed by the property. But what this project would do is to provide the 25-foot enhanced buffer between the buildings and those backyards of the homes on Commonwealth Circle. So I'm not sure what's supposed to be there now, but we would certainly, through our project, provide landscaping along that entire back boundary line.
Interesting. I hear that Ned Galloway has his hand up. Ned?
Thank you, Cynthia. Lori, do they have any sense yet, Block A, Block B, the relationship between the two, what the viability for Block B is based on what's going on in Block A? Do they need that as income to make Block B work? Is that designed for services related to combination of the above? Is any of that
really
fleshed out yet?
Yeah, it really started, Ned, because of what the comprehensive plan wants here. You know, this is not supposed to be 100% residential, and we are trying to make sure that we are in compliance with the comprehensive plan to have along 29, a good compromise was to have commercial. And so you won't see the residential buildings behind there from 29. And so that was more in the spirit of this district than having apartments up against 29. But to your point, yes, I mean, the having that commercial building there that could be sold would definitely contribute to the financial viability of the project. I shouldn't say building to be sold, but even the whole block, Block 1 could be subdivided off and sold for a third party to develop.
Anything
Thank you.
else? Ned?
Did anyone want to add to that? Andy, you might want to.
Yeah, I mean, so I think Lori encapsulated it very well. But that doesn't preclude the idea that we could look at it as also a portion of the overall development. We have had conversations with associated parties to see if there's some opportunity to get some kind of related nonprofit groups up there in the commercial space, so that we could have some kind of synergy between the uses, but it's not required for the development. We are looking into opportunities, but at the end of the day, if that parcel is just sold off to defray some of the acquisition costs, that works as well.
Cool. I think a Bony Bug has a question. Are you there, hon?
Ms. Ebony, thank you. And
Ebony.
Yeah.
See, I was giving it a more exotic. Ebony, of course, Ebony.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just me. I don't need to get any more exotic than I am. Thank you. And I appreciate you calling on me, and thanks to your staff who was putting it up. I actually had a comment a while back when you guys were talking about the relationship between mental health, excuse me, and housing. I'm here as a representative from the Charlottesville Area Community Foundation, and our role in this project really is in exploring ways that we can support the purchase of the property. But I'm also in town a psychotherapist, providing mental health services to individuals and training other therapists. And I just wanted to name that one of the #1 things, in addition to providing treatment to my clients, that I actually spend my time on is helping them to acquire affordable housing. And so I know that at times it can be concerning, maybe with this concentration of population and facing those issues, but this type of housing with supportive resources on site is incredibly necessary in order for folks to be safe. And I also just, want to name that many people are getting much more acquainted, I think, in these times with what it means to experience housing instability and also mental illness, and perhaps both at the same time, and recognizing that this isn't this unknown other, but our neighbors. And that's one of the reasons that the Charlottesville Area Community Foundation is really supportive of this project, and really appreciate the time and consideration that you guys are giving to this tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Ebony. That's good. CACF's got your back. That's great news. Admin. Is there somebody whose signature is admin?
I just now gave them permission to talk, and if you could just state your name before you ask the question or comment. Provide a comment.
Nobody?
I think you need to unmute yourself. Well, it might not be working, Cynthia, but I guess I would ask whoever this is to just type your comment in the Q&A box and we can respond.
Yeah, that would probably be the easiest. Does anybody else have a question at the moment? Have we got them all answered?
I thought I had seen Julian's hand up a while back.
Julian just flails, so we
And the question just popped up from admin, I believe. Have the infrastructures been addressed? I think the question.
Yes. Oh, it's Jenny. Okay, yeah. So the question is, have the infrastructures been addressed? I'm going to assume.
Sure. Well, the hotel is currently served by, water, electricity, all of that, and will continue to be so. So we believe that there's sufficient service to the site already. Craig, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, that's exactly right. There's already water and sewer available to the site. And then additionally, there's also stormwater lines that we'll be able to tie into with regards to drainage and water quality, quantity treatment, and those sorts of things. And so, yeah, all of that is close by and easily accessible for the project.
Okay, going once. Well, thank you very much for this. I think this has been, you know, one of the best community meetings. I think people are genuinely enthused and excited about the opportunity for people who need housing and can't afford the housing around here. So this has been great. I really appreciate everybody's candor and comments. Did you have anything, Diantha?
No, I just appreciated hearing the comments and learning a little bit more about the project. It's great. Thank you.
Yes.
So I think that we are coming to an end and right on time again. You know, it's something we aim for, Diantha and I, because we have glasses of wine waiting for us at exactly 7. So we probably need to make a motion to adjourn and wave goodbye to all of our friends and wish these 2 proposals good luck, bon chance, and we'll continue to follow them. So does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Anybody? Okay, there we go. All in favor, say aye.
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 Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, everyone.